A very good afternoon and thank you for joining us on BeeTv News on the hour. I am Evelyn Izebili and now to the news in details. A Sudanese military leader has been found guilty of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Darfur region more than 20 years ago. Ali Muhammad Ali Abd al-Rahman, also known as Ali Kashaib, one of the leaders of the Janjaweed, a government-backed group that terrorized Darfur, killing hundreds of thousands of people. BeeTv News Temitope Oluwafemi reports.
Kashaib is the first person to be tried by the International Criminal Court (ICC) for the atrocities in Darfur. He had argued it was a case of mistaken identity. The conflict lasted from 2003 to 2020 and was one of the world's gravest humanitarian disasters, with allegations of ethnic cleansing and genocide against the region's non-Arabic population. 5 years after the end of the crisis, Darfur is a key battleground in another civil war, this time between Sudan's army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF), whose origins lie in the Janjaweed. During Kashaib's trial, survivors describe how their villages were burned down, men and boys slaughtered, and women forced into sex slavery. Presiding Judge Joanna Connor said he encouraged and gave instructions that resulted in the killings, the rapes, and the destruction committed by the Janjaweed. She added that Kashaib had given orders to wipe out and sweep away non-Arabic tribes and told soldiers, "Don't leave anyone behind, bring no one alive." The militia leader was found guilty on 27 counts, centering on attacks committed between 2003 to 2004. Ahead of the verdict, a small group of Darfuris waited patiently to enter the court in the Dutch city of The Hague. They were in no doubt about the pivotal role Kashaib played in their suffering, with one man saying he was the one who gave the orders. He was the one who got the weapons. The Darfur War began after the Arab-dominated government at the time armed the Janjaweed in an attempt to suppress an uprising by rebels from Black Africa ethnic groups. The Janjaweed systematically attacked non-Arab villagers accused of supporting the rebels, leading to accusations of genocide. That same systematic violence is still happening in Darfur as part of Sudan's current civil war. Many of the Janjaweed fighters have morphed into the Rapid Support Forces (RSF), the paramilitary group that is battling Sudan's army. The UK, US, and rights groups have accused the RSF of carrying out ethnic cleansing against non-Arab communities in Darfur since the conflict began in 2023. Throughout the two conflicts, there has been a long hiring out of militias, suppressing of rebellion, and sexual violence used as a tool of war. Dr. Matthew Benson-Strohmeyer, Sudan Research Director at the London School of Economics, told the BBC. Mr. Benson-Strohmeyer hopes the ICC verdict will impact the current conflict, but sincerely doubts it will. Most victims of the first Darfur crisis remain displaced, and although the ICC has managed to prosecute Kashaib, there are still outstanding arrest warrants against Sudanese officials, including one accusing former President Omar al-Bashir of genocide, which he denies. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for BeeTv News.
France is facing further political chaos after the country's latest Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, resigned after just 26 days in the role. Hours after quitting, Lecornu accepted a request from French President Emmanuel Macron to work on a plan for the stability for the country by Wednesday evening. That unexpected tweet capped a day of political upheaval, which was talked for sharply on the Paris exchange amid concerns over the political party's ability to tackle the country's economic woes. The report. Lecornu's shock resignation on Monday morning came the day after he unveiled his cabinet and made him the third French PM to leave office since last December. His ministerial lineup has been fiercely criticized across the board by parties and the National Assembly, which threatened to vote it down. The nomination of former Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire as Minister of the Armed Forces in particular seemed to be sticking point for many political factions. On Monday afternoon, Le Maire said he was withdrawing from cabinet in a bid to end the crisis. Shortly shortly after the LC Palace announced Licorno had been given another 48 hours to work out whether negotiations with political parties could result in a stability plan for France. Licorno was only appointed in September after Francois Briot government collapsed when MPs refused to back his budget. Briot was himself installed after Michael Barnier was ousted last December. The nation's politics has been highly unstable since July 2024 when Macron called for snap parliamentary elections in a bid to achieve a clear majority following a bruising loss for his party in the European Parliament vote. Instead, the elections resulted in a hung parliament divided into ideological opposed factions deeply at odds with one another and unwilling to work together. Should Licorno not succeed, Macron will be ready to take responsibility, according to sources close to the presidential office quoted by French media. Several parties are now clamoring for early elections and some are calling for Macron to go, although he has always said he will not stand down before his term ends in 2027. The decision on how to proceed now rests with Macron, who must surely be asking himself how long this political charade can be allowed to go on. In his brief speech outside the Hotel de Matignon on Monday morning, Licorno criticized the partisan appetites of political factions who he said are all behaving as if they had an absolute majority. The entrenched division in French politics have made it difficult for any prime minister to garner the necessary support to pass any bills. Evelyn Isabella reporting for BeeTv News. The U.S. Senate failed for the fifth time on Monday to pass spending measures that will reopen the government. Competing proposals by Democrats and Republicans were both shut down, failing to meet the 60-vote threshold required. BeeTv News' Esohe Osewenge has details.
Donald Trump had reiterated threats of mass layoffs if another vote failed earlier in the day. Thousands of federal employees were furloughed or ordered to work without pay when voting for their agencies ended 5 days ago. But the U.S. president hinted that it was open to trying to end the impasse and possibly strike a deal with Democrats who are sticking to demands that the legislation address health care. Republicans are pressing for a clean funding bill. The Democrat-led bill to extend the government's funding failed first on Monday with a 45-50 vote. Its Republican counterparts then fell short at 52-42. Soon after the vote, Trump took to social media to blame Democrats for shutting down the government. Democrats have held out on supporting the Republican-led proposal because they say it undercuts medical access for lower-income Americans. They want any funding bill to ensure health insurance subsidized for lower-income Americans do not expire and to reverse the Trump administration's cut to the Medicaid health program. Republicans have repeatedly accused Democrats of shutting down the government to provide health care to undocumented immigrants, something Democrat leaders deny. They have also said that they will work on the health care issue in separate legislation after the government reopens. Speaking in the Oval Office on Monday, Trump said he's currently negotiating with Democrat leadership on possible health care provisions. The White House has warned since the shutdown started last Wednesday the permanent firings of federal employees were imminent. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt echoed on Monday, saying the Office of Management and Budget was already working with agencies that would have to lay people off. She said they do not want to see people laid off, but unfortunately, if this shutdown continues, layoffs are going to be an unfortunate consequence of that. In separate interviews, the House top Democrat Hakeem Jeffries and top Republican Speaker Mike Johnson each blamed the other party for the continued standoff. Jeffries accused Republicans of lying about Democrats' intention in the negotiation because they are losing the court of public opinion. But Johnson said Democrats were not serious and negotiating in bad faith. They are doing this to get political cover, he said. Recent polling from CBS, the BBC's U.S. news partner, found that Americans view both parties' handling of the shutdown unfavorable, with Trump and congressional Republicans being blamed slightly more for the situation. Esohe Osewenge reporting for BeeTv News.
UK PM Keir Starmer urges students not to join pro-Palestinian protest on the second anniversary of the 7th October Hamas attack on Israel. He says it would be un-British for the planned rallies to go ahead, adding they have been used by some as a despicable excuse to attack British Jews. It comes as indirect talks between Israel and Hamas aimed at securing a deal to end the war are expected to continue in Egypt today. Meanwhile, events are being held to mark 2 years since Hamas' attack on Israel on 7 October 2023, in which about 1,200 people were killed and 251 others were taken hostage. The Israeli military launched a campaign in Gaza in response, which he has killed at least 67,160 people there, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. The Israeli government does not allow international news organizations, including the BBC, into Gaza to report freely. Just a month ago, Israel tried to kill Hamas lead negotiator in a strike on Qatar. The initial discussions, which are expected to last for several days, are said to be focused on the withdrawal of Israeli troops from parts of Gaza and the Palestinian prisoners whom Israel will release in exchange for the hostages. Last night in Washington, President Trump again said a ceasefire agreement was possible. We have a really good chance of making a deal, and it will be a lasting deal. We want to have peace. This is beyond Gaza. Gaza a big deal, but this is really peace in the Middle East. In Israel, the military is on a high state of alert for the second anniversary of the deadly Hamas assault, which coincides with the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. Following the first day of indirect peace talk in Egypt between Israel and Hamas, U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters there is a really good chance of a peace deal being agreed upon. The U.S. has deported 10 people to Eswatini despite rights group in the Southern African states mounting legal actions to block the plan. This is the second batch of deportees that the Trump administration has sent to Eswatini as part of its hardline approach towards immigration. BeeTv News' Oluwafemi Temitope has details.
The 10 have been securely accommodated and pose no threat to the public, Eswatini's prison department said in a statement. Eswatini human rights lawyer Nwanzili Mbansuku that the government had taken in the group despite an ongoing court case against the arrival of 5 deportees in July. The U.S. had described the 5 from Jamaica, Cuba, Laos, Vietnam, and Yemen as depraved monsters. The Jamaican had since been repatriated to his country of origin, while another 2 were expected to be repatriated soon, Eswatini's government says. In a statement on Sunday, the government said it would take in 11 deportees following an agreement with the U.S. to cooperate in this manner. It did not explain why only 10 had arrived. Their names have not been made public. The administration alleges that he was a member of transnational Salvadorian gang MS-13, which he denies. He was mistakenly deported to El Salvador in March and then returned to the U.S. where he was detained and charged with human smuggling. He pleaded not guilty. A U.S. federal judge ruled on Friday that Mr. Garcia's prosecution could be for vindictive reasons, and he would hear more evidence before reaching a final decision. The government acting spokesperson Tabil Lunduli had said the deportees would be kept in a secured area separate from the public, while arrangements are made for their return to their countries of origin. Their arrival comes a day before a court case against the deportations is set to resume in the main city, Mbambe. Mr. Mmasuku, who represents civil society groups challenging the deal, said he would have expected the government to respect the court process and await its ruling before accepting more deportees. In September, campaign group Human Rights Watch, HRW, said it had seen the agreement between the Eswatini and the U.S. government. It provides for Eswatini to accept up to 160 deportees in exchange for $5.1 million from the U.S. to build its border and migration management capacity, HRW said. The Southern African Litigation Center, SALC, along with other civil society groups, argues that the government's decision amounts to execute overreach, and Eswatini's constitution states that such agreements should be reached with parliamentary consent, something that did not happen in this instance. Activists also protested against the deal outside the U.S. Embassy when the first deportees arrived. The civic groups say the deal is secretive and an example of democratic regression, 20 years after Eswatini adopted a constitution to give more of a say to parliament in a country where the king had long wielded absolute power. He said they would have expected this milestone to reflect a maturation of our democracy, stronger rule of law, greater accountability, and clearer separation of powers. The SALC's Melusi Simlane, the government is defending the case, saying it acted within its powers and that the constitution makes allowances for it to reach such agreements with foreign governments. Some Eswatini MPs had previously raised concerns about the deal in parliament, but Prime Minister Russell Dlamini said it had been handled at top clearance level. The deal also alarmed neighboring South Africa, which expressed fears that the deportees could cross into the country via their porous border. MS Unduli tried to allay the fears by saying the deportees were being held in solitary confinement in a secure facility. Previously known as Swaziland, Eswatini is a small landlocked country surrounded by South Africa and Mozambique. It has been led by King Mswati III since 1986. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for BeeTv News.
British microcomputers were among more than 100,000 foreign-made parts contained in Russian missiles and drones used in Sunday's deadly strike on Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky has said. The Ukrainian president called for further effective sanctions after saying parts originating in allied countries, including Germany, Japan, and the US, have been identified in Russia's weapon. BeeTv News' Harmony Agbafo has details on this report.
The Department for Business and Trade (DBT) said it had recently undertaken efforts to crack down on UK firms whose products have continued to make their way into Russian military supply chain. The spokesperson said the government had banned the export of thousands of goods to Russia, including every battlefield item Ukraine has brought to our attention, adding that they have imposed a more severe package of sanctions. Any person or firm that does not comply with sanctions could face large financial penalty or criminal prosecution. Over €20 billion, $26.9 billion of UK trade with Russia is now under sanction, according to the DBT. Writing on X, Zelensky said microcomputers for drone flight control are produced in United Kingdom. He added it was crucial to shut down every scheme that circumvents sanctions, and said countries which support Ukraine already possesses the detailed data on each company and each product still being used by Russia. Components originated in China, Taiwan, and Netherlands have also been identified in Russian weapons, he continued. 4 members of one family, including a 15-year-old girl, were killed by a strike in the village of Lepivka on Sunday, as Russia launched 549 missiles and drones overnight, primarily against the western region of Lviv. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, it has become the most sanctioned nation in the world. However, it has adapted its economy and manufacturing to avoid collapse, with massively increased military spending resulting in continued growth. Russia has also found willing buyers in China and India for its energy export after European nations slashed how much they purchased, continuing an important revenue source. A number of Western experts have recently pointed to what they say are growing signs that the economy is now under an ever-increasing strain. Favor Kolawole reporting for BeeTv News.
The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, has stated that Nigeria is experiencing a historic milestone in its healthcare system with the launch of the largest integrated health campaign in Africa and the second largest globally. Speaking at the national flag-off of the integrated campaign for measles, rubella, human papillomavirus, polio routine immunization, and neglected tropical disease intervention held in Abuja, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, described the initiative as a bold reimagining of healthcare delivery in Nigeria under President Bola Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda. Professor Pate emphasized that the campaign reflects the president's vision of positioning health as a central pillar of national development, bringing healing, unity, and inspiration to the nation through improved healthcare services. He paid special tribute to the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, for her steadfast commitment and personal development and dedication to enhancing the health and well-being of women and children across the country. In her remarks, the First Lady reaffirmed her dedication to improving child health in Nigeria and urged parents to ensure that every child receives the measles and rubella vaccines.
Integrated campaign in the African continent and second largest anywhere in the world. And this is not only about vaccination. It is about boldly reimagining how we deliver health services to our people, getting as close to the people as we can. And at the heart of this bold step is the vision and commitment of our President, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, whose prioritization of health under his renewed hope agenda has provided the enabling environment for the reforms and innovations we are undertaking, such as this.
I call on all Nigerians to embrace and avail themselves of this vaccine. Mothers, take your children to be vaccinated. Fathers, support your wives and families to ensure your children are protected. And to our revered traditional rulers and religious leaders, your voices carry immense weight. Use your influence to spread the truth, to dispel rumors, and to ensure that no child is left behind. Let me take this moment to commend the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare under the leadership of Professor Muhammad Ali Pate, COF.
The Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, retired Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, has called on all stakeholders involved in the ongoing development of the next National Drug Control Master Plan to ensure the strategy effectively addresses new and emerging threats that continue to fuel the illicit drug trade in Nigeria. Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa gave the admonition earlier in Niger State during his opening remarks at the 5-day workshop focused on developing Nigeria's 5th National Drug Control Master Plan. The residential retreat is funded by the ECOWAS Commission and supported by the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime. Speaking at the workshop, UNODC country representatives Chike Osman, represented by Dr. Akani Domo Ibanga, commended Nigerians' efforts in drug control so far, acknowledging the progress made in tackling drug abuse and illicit trafficking.
It's both strategic and historic. The drug problem continues to evolve, and so must our response. The NDCMP 2026 to 2030 must be visionary yet practical, comprehensive yet targeted, and nationally owned yet regionally and globally aligned.
This workshop presents us a unique opportunity to look at what we've done previously, the shortcomings, and to harmonize our perspectives and ensure that our priorities reflect both national realities and international standards.
The Nigerian National Drug Control Master Plan will expire this year or maybe next year, and a new plan needs to be developed to address the emerging threats, trafficking patterns, and the increasing burden of substance use disorders.
Some of the country's registered political parties have advocated for the establishment of an electoral offences commission to prosecute individuals involved in electoral misconduct. They also urged the National Assembly to reassess the role of the judiciary in order to restore public confidence in the justice system. The political parties are also calling for greater inclusion and adequate representation of persons with disabilities, young people, and other vulnerable groups in the political process. They emphasize the need for intentional policies and legislative measures that ensure these marginalized groups have a voice in governance and decision-making at all levels. According to the parties, inclusive representation is essential for building a truly democratic and equitable society where no group is left behind.
All parties that sponsor you, are you going to stay with them?
I think we should also include, which may even be easier, that you reserve the office of the Deputy Speaker in the House of Reps for women. Any woman that gets there automatically, or women are just there among them, a woman must be the deputy speaker. A woman must also be the deputy speaker of every state assembly. The deputy senate president must also be a woman.
Welfare is part of the compulsory role of Federal Republic of Nigeria vis-a-vis, through our constitution. But we are not implementing it. The constitution says the welfare of every Nigerian shall be the responsibility of government. So if we cannot take care of everybody, but we choose these vulnerable ones,
reading from the business news, the European Union is set to begin the implementation of a new biometric entry and exit system, EES, for non-EU travelers starting October 12, 2025. The EES will introduce mandatory fingerprints and facial scans at external borders, replacing the traditional passport stamping system. Let's join BeeTv News team Tokwe Oluwafemi for details from the business world.
The system will be rolled out gradually at airports and land crossing across participating countries, including France, Spain, Iceland, Norway, and Switzerland. Full deployment is scheduled for April 10, 2026. The EES will apply to all non-EU nationals entering on short stays of up to 90 days within any 180-day period. Children under the age of 12 will be exempt from fingerprinting. The new digital platform will log travelers' biometric and personal data at entry and exit points, improving border control efficiency and enhancing the accuracy of monitoring overstays and identity verification. Biometric and personal data will be stored for up to 3 years and will not be shared with third parties. The EES aims to modernize border management, reduce processing times via self-service kiosks and advance information submission, and strengthen enforcement against illegal overstays. Travelers found to be in violation could face entry bans, future visa denials, fines, or deportation. The system was initially scheduled for a 2024 launch but was postponed. President Tinubu approves 4 trillion naira bond to clear Genco and gas supply debts. President Bola Tinubu has approved a 4 trillion bond aimed at settling verified debts owed to power generation companies, Gencos, and gas suppliers. The bond is part of a broader strategy to stabilize Nigeria's electricity market under the federal government's Renewed Hope agenda. The announcement was made by the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, during a stakeholder forum in Abuja. The bond is intended to clear legacy liabilities, restore liquidity in the sector, and boost investor confidence. In addition to the bond, the government is developing a targeted subsidy framework to protect vulnerable consumers and support the sector's path to full commercialization. Ongoing reforms include tariff adjustments that have led to improved supply reliability and cost efficiency for industries. Industry revenue reportedly rose by 70% in 2024, reaching a 1.7 trillion naira with expectations of surpassing 2 trillion naira in 2025. Infrastructure development under the President Power Initiative has already added 700 megawatts of transmission capacity. Contracts under Phase 1 have been signed with Siemens Energy, CMEC, Elsewedy Electric, and Power China, targeting an additional 7,000 megawatts. Furthermore, the government is rehabilitating existing NIPP plants to unlock 345 megawatts and has integrated the 700 MW Zungeru hydropower plant into the national grid. Ecobank Nigeria has launched an upgraded version of its mobile banking app designed to enhance user experience and increase access to smart digital banking services. The updated app features a modern user interface and improved functionalities including facial recognition login, seamless bill payment, airtime top-ups, and QR code-enabled transactions. It also supports full account management capabilities such as digital account opening, cardless onboarding, end-to-end card management, request activation, PIN change, block and unblock, profile updates, dormant account reactivation, and real-time foreign exchange rate monitoring. The upgrade is part of Ecobank's broader digital transformation agenda aimed at providing customers with convenient, secure, and flexible banking options. The new app is available for download on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Temitokwe Oluwafemi reporting for BeeTv News.
And lastly, on today's bulletin, reality television personality and media figure Tasha Akinde has visited her former residence in Po Port Harcourt, River State, where she spent her early years. The visit was part of a personal tour and documentary of her life journey. Also, Ed Sheeran learns of Taylor Swift's engagement on social media. The report. Tasha, known for her appearance on Big Brother Naija, was accompanied by security personnel during the visit. A crowd of local gathered to welcome her, with some old residents recognizing and greeting her warmly. During the tour, she pointed out the exact building and small room she previously lived in, reflecting on the challenges she faced during that period. She became visibly emotional while recalling her past struggles. The visit has drawn attention on social media, with many users highlighting her story as an example of perseverance and upward mobility. In another development, legal representative of Miss Amaka Obasi, creative director of Arden Lifestyle Company, have refuted fraud allegations made against her by Afrobeat artist Divine Ikubo Rema. The allegations stem from a dispute over the renovation of the singer's Lagos residence. According to her legal counsel, Valerian Vini and Partners LP, Obasi was contracted under the designer services agreement to carry out major structural renovations, including demolition, expansion, pool restructuring, roofing, tilting, and construction of a carport. The law firm stated that the project experienced delays due to factors such as design changes requested by the clients, access restriction by the estate management, and inflation-related material cost increases. Despite this, Obasi reportedly continued the project without adjusting her professional fees. The firm also disclosed that Obasi had previously handled 2 successful projects from the Ikubo family without incident. They added that communication was maintained throughout the renovation, with no quality concerns raised by Rema until disagreements arose over additional work beyond the original contract. The legal team criticized the Nigeria police for allegedly arresting Obasi based on Rema's petition, describing it as a misuse of legal process in a silver contract dispute. Nigeria singer Adekunle Gold has been honored in his hometown with a street named after him. The unveiling of Adekunle Kosoko Street was conducted in the presence of his wife, singer Simi, and their daughter, Deja. The recognition is a tribute to the artist's contribution and success in the music industry. The naming of the street symbolizes local appreciation and recognition of his achievements and legacy. The event was commemorated with a public announcement by the artist via social media, where he shared a video of the unveiling. America's singer-songwriter Taylor Swift has confirmed that British musician Ed Sheeran learned of her engagement to NFL player Travis Kelce through social media. The revelation was made during her appearance on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Swift explained that Sheeran, known for avoiding the use of mobile phones, was not personally informed prior to the public announcement. The engagement, which was made public in August 2025 via a joint Instagram post, follows 2 years of dating. Swift showcased her engagement ring during the TV appearance as part of a promotion for her new album, The Life of a Showgirl. Evelyn Isabella reporting for BeeTv News. And that is the size of our news package on BeeTv News on the hour. Many thanks for joining us. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you.